Hello, my name is Lewis and welcome to Gathering the Magic. Today we're looking at the latest batch of Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoilers. Getting straight into it here with the biggest of the bunch with Jin-Gitaxias Progress Tyrant. This legendary Phyrexian Praetor says whenever you cast an artifact, instant or sorcery spell, copy that spell. You may choose new targets for the copy with the ability triggering once per turn. And whenever an opponent casts an artifact, instant or sorcery spell, counter that spell. Again, with this triggering once per turn. This is the second variant printing of Jin-Gitaxias that was originally released in New Phyrexia, and with Vorinclex making its way through to Kaldheim last year, does that mean we could see the likes of Elish Norn in future sets like the Brothers War? Time will tell. Finally, these alternate versions in its showcase frame and Phyrexian printing are both spectacular and something I'll definitely be hoping to crack when I start opening those set and collector booster boxes in the near future. Please pray for me. Before we start looking at some returning Planeswalkers, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for all things MTG. Subscribing is completely free to do, it really helps the channel grow and grow as we head towards 2,000 subscribers. Next on up we have Tezzeret, Betrayer of Flesh. This legendary Planeswalker says the first activated ability of an artifact you activate each turn costs 2 less to activate. The +1 says to draw 2 cards, then discard 2 cards unless you discard an artifact card. The -2 says target artifact becomes an artifact creature. If it isn't a vehicle, it has base power toughness 4/4. And the ultimate -6 creates an emblem with whenever an artifact you control becomes tapped, draw a card. The former henchman of Nicol Bolas was first introduced back in Mirrodin Besieged and has had a few different variants over the years, and this one is pretty damn good. Again, with the borderless and showcase versions both looking incredible here. The art on this set is really shaping up to be strong. Moving smoothly onto another Planeswalker, this time with Flash, we had the Wandering Emperor. Returning from War of the Spark, it says as long as it ETB'd this turn, you may activate her loyalty abilities any time you can cast an instant. The +1 says put a +1/+1 counter on up to 1 target creature, it gains first strike until end of turn. The -1 says create a 2/2 white samurai creature token with vigilance, and the -2 says exile tapped target creature, you gain 2 life. Here once more continuing the trend of great alternate art cards, the borderless and showcase versions are all top tier. Looking at one final Planeswalker spoiled here is Tamiyo Completed Sage. Another returning Planeswalker with this having completed. The Phyrexian casting cost option to pay blue, green or 2 life, with it entering with 2 fewer loyalty counters if life was paid to cast. The +1 says tap up to 1 target artifact or creature, it doesn't untap during its controller's next untap step. The -X says exile target non-land permanent card with mana value X from your graveyard, create a token that's a copy of that card. And the big -7 says create Tamiyo's Notebook, a legendary colourless artifact token with spells you cast 2 less to cast, and tap to draw a card. Another creature that stretches back all the way to Avacyn Restored, with a few other printings over the years. Also with this art having that borderless and colourless versions to boot. You love to see it. For the next reveal we have Go Shintai, the Shared Purpose. This 1/3 Vigilant Shrine says at the beginning of your end step you may pay 1. If you do, create a 1/1 colourless spirit creature token for each shrine you control. A cool new shrine which we did predict there would be more of in the Neon Dynasty investment video. With this card being white, then surely other colour shrines are to come. We were also given the spoiler of Kyrie, the Swirling Sky. This blue dragon spirit has flying and ward 3, and when it dies you choose 1. Either return any number of target non-land permanents with total mana value 6 or less to their owner's hands, or mill 6 cards, then return up to 2 instant and or sorcery cards from your graveyard to your hand. This also has that borderless option that is really cool and gives me Shenron and Rayquaza vibes, but of course in blue. Another legendary flying dragon spirit we were given a sneak peek towards was Ao, the Dawn Sky. With flying and vigilance, this also has a dying trigger of choosing one of the following. Either look at the top 7 cards of your library, put any number of non-land permanent cards with total mana value 4 or less from among them onto the field, putting the rest on the bottom of your library in any order. Or put 2 +1/+1 counters on each permanent you control that's a creature or vehicle. Once again, with this golden glowing dragon in its borderless frame, it looks absolutely incredible. I don't know if I've made it clear or not, I just love the art in this set so far. We're now looking at a whole bunch of those Saga DFC cards that have been previewed, starting with the Kamigawa. Costing 1 and Wooburg, Part 1 exiles an opponent's non-land permanent. Part 2 returns up to one other target non-land permanent to its owner's hand, with each opponent discarding a card. The final part of the saga exiles it, returning it transformed to O Kagachi Made Manifest. This all-coloured flying 6/6 says when it attacks, defending player chooses a non-land card in your graveyard, returning it to your hand, giving O Kagachi +X+0 until end of turn, where X is the mana value of that card. With this card having that extended art version and the always loved borderless version. There's also Azusa's Many Journeys, with step 1 playing you an extra land for turn, step 2 gaining you 3 life, and step 3 exiling and transforming into Likeness of the Seeker, that when it becomes blocked, untap up to 3 lands you control. We have Era of Enlightenment, a saga that scries you 2 on step 1, gains you 2 life on step 2, and for step 3 you exile and return it transformed to Hand of Enlightenment, a 2/2 monk with first strike. There's also Michiko's Reign of Truth, with step 1 and 2 giving target creature +1/+1 until end of turn for each artifact and or enchantment you control. As always, step 3 exiles and transforms into Portrait of Michiko that gets +1/+1 for each artifact and or enchantment you control. We also have the Modern Age, the blue saga that draws and then discards you a card on step 1 and 2, with step 3 exiling and transforming it to Vector Glider, a 2/3 spirit with flying. Next up is Life of Toshiro Umezawa. Step 1 and 2 says choose one, target creature gets +2/+2 until end of turn, target creature gets -1/-1 until end of turn, or you gain 2 life. With step 3 exiling and transforming into Memory of Toshiro, the human samurai that can tap and pay a life to add a swamp, spending this mana to only cast instant or sorcery spells. We also have the Shattered States Era. Step 1 says gain control of target creature until end of turn, untap it giving it haste until end of turn. Step 2 says creatures you control get +1/+0 until end of turn, and step 3 exiles and transforms to Nameless Conqueror, a 3/3 creature with trample and haste. There's Befriending the Moths, with step 1 and 2 giving target creature you control +1/+1 and flying until end of turn, with step 3 transforming into Imperial Moth, a flying 2/4 insect. We have Behold the Unspeakable. Step 1 gives creatures you don't control -2/-0 until end of turn. Step 2 says if you have 1 or fewer cards in your hand, draw 4 cards. Otherwise, scry 2, then draw 2 cards. Step 3 transforms into Vision of the Unspeakable, a flying trample spirit that gets +1/+1 for each card in your hand. Next on up is Bosiju Reaches Upward. Step 1 searches your library for 2 basic forests, putting them into your hand. Step 2 puts 1 target card from your graveyard on top of your library, with it then transforming to Branch of Bosiju, a plant with reach getting +1/+1 for each land you control. We have the Dragon Kami Reborn, with step 1 and 2 gaining 2 life. Looking at the top 3 cards of your library, exiling 1 face down with a hatchling counter on it, with step 3 transforming to Dragon Kami's Egg that says whenever it or a creature you control dies, you may cast a creature from cards you own in exile with hatchling counters on them without paying their mana cost. For the last saga, there is Teachings of the Kirin. Step 1 says mill 3 cards, creating a 1/1 colourless spirit creature token. Step 2 puts a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, and step 3 exiles and transforms to Kirin Touched Orochi. When this attacks, choose one. Either exile target creature card from a graveyard, creating a 1/1 spirit token, or exile target non-creature card from a graveyard, putting a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. On to the final few cards here, we have Invoke Despair, a sorcery that says target opponent sacks a creature. If they can't, they lose 2 life and draw a card, repeating this process for an enchantment and a planeswalker, with this card again getting some alternate art options. There's Mirror Box that says the Legends rule doesn't apply to permanents you control, with each legendary creature you control getting +1/+1, and each non-token creature you control gets +1/+1 for each other creature you control with the same name as that creature, with a showcase option also being revealed. There's Dokuchi Shadow Walker with Ninjutsu, and Biting Palm Ninja, again with Ninjutsu and Menace, with a chance to exile an opponent's card when Biting Palm Ninja deals combat damage. For even more ninjutsu options, there is Silver Fur Master that cheapens ninjutsu activations and gives other ninjas and rogues +1/+1. And Covert Technician, that when dealing combat damage to a player, you can put an artifact card with mana value less or equal to that damage from your hand onto the battlefield. There's Dokuchi Naturalist with lifelink that makes enchantment spells you cast cost 1 less to cast, an Enthusiastic Mechanaur, a flying artifact creature that cheapens those artifact spells by 1. 2 must-haves here in those enchantment and artifact loving decks for sure. And now what we'll do for the last minute or so is show the rest of these cards in a slideshow-esque style. We really have been hit with so many spoilers in the last 24 to 48 hours that have really amped up the hype for this set. Do feel free to pause and look at any of these cards, and now with a total of around 50 cards of the 302 spoiled, it is really shaping up to be an incredible set, with lots of interesting new and old mechanics to play with, and as I've mentioned about 500 times in this video, the art is shaping up to be one of the best we've had in a standard set for many years. We've even had cards spoiled from the soon-to-be upcoming Neon Dynasty Commander sets too, which we will of course be making our own budget brews on in the very near future. That is some prickly perfection right there. There we have it, that's the Kamigawa Neon Dynasty spoilers. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel for all things MTG. Check out our link tree in the description below for all of our social media and affiliate links. For now though, I'm all tapped out, so I'll see you in the next video.